We are not happy with that whole situation because we believe it could have been stopped at the source. It could have been stopped quickly, and it wouldn't have spread all over the world. And we think that should have happened. So we'll let you know at the appropriate time, but we are doing serious investigations.
President Trump, just moments ago, as health officials in China say that the last COVID-19 patients in Wuhan have now been released from the hospital, a major milestone for the city where the pandemic first began. But the government announcement comes as Fox News reports that China may have had up to 50 times more cases than they have admitted or reported officially. Trump administration official telling Fox News, quote, "We don't know the real numbers today, but we do know that the about 80,000 infection and 4,000 death numbers reported by the Chinese Communist Party propaganda are not even remotely close." Here now, Senator Lindsey Graham, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Senator Graham, good to have you here tonight. You know, obviously, it's very difficult to believe what's coming out of China in terms of these numbers. Right. I'm just going to pop up the population numbers for everybody at home so they can get a look at this. China's population, 1.4 billion. They say that they lost 4,600 people. The United States has 328 million. And we have been fully transparent about the fact that we've lost nearly 56,000 right now. Just take a look at Wuhan versus New York. Wuhan has 11 million people. 3,800 deaths. New York City, 8.4 million, 17.5 million deaths. What's going on here?
Oh, that's Chinese Communist Party BS. That's what's going on here. Here's what we do know. 26 million Americans are out of work because of this virus. Almost 56,000 Americans are dead because of this virus. It came from China. I'm not saying they intentionally did this. A combination of gross negligence plus willful deception by the Chinese government led to this. And here's my plea to my Democratic colleagues. Please don't give China a pass for this pandemic. Work with me to compel China to do three things that need to be done. Number one, fully cooperate with any investigation regarding how the virus originated, U.S. and international community. Number two, close all the wet markets that serve exotic wildlife like bats and monkeys, where a lot of this comes from. And three, release all the Hong Kong democracy advocates that have been jailed since the virus started. We're going to put sanctions on China till they do those three things. And I need Democrats. Democrats have been very silent when it comes to China. Please do not give China a pass.
All right. So, I mean, we've heard a number of proposals coming out of Congress to crack down on China. Are there teeth in this? Tell me about the sanctions. So if they don't do those three things or even one of those three things, what's going to happen to them?
That's a great question. One, we're going to seize assets of Chinese officials that are responsible for not reporting the pandemic. We're going to cut China off from U.S. financial institutions. We're going to shut down visa travel into the United States for Chinese students. We're going to close off America to China, to the Chinese economy. And we're going to make it hard for them to do business in the United States until they fully cooperate, close the wet markets, and release the Hong Kong democracy advocates. There's real teeth in this bill. But the only way it will really have teeth if it's bipartisan. So to the Democratic Party, join me and President Trump and all Republicans to send a signal to China. Business as usual is over until you change your behavior.
You know, it's interesting. The polls that we've seen show that the American people are really waking up to this issue and that they don't want us to be dependent on China anymore. And I find that fascinating. It, sort of reminds me of the Made in the USA movement that was around in the late 70s, early 80s. Right. And, I actually have a little clip from one of those jingles that I'm going to play. Go ahead. Let's play that. Do you remember those? That's the union workers, ladies garment union workers.
By the union label.
I think that, I think that if you had a real make it in the USA movement in this country at this moment, I think you could get a lot of momentum behind that. Why don't we see that yet?
It's called the Trump campaign. It's called the Trump campaign. How did Trump get to be president? He said, I'm going to stand up to China cheating. I'm going to stand up to China stealing our jobs, stealing our intellectual property, ripping us off, manipulating their currency. One of the biggest reasons that Donald Trump is president of the United States, he saw the behavior of China to be unacceptable. Every other president before him has given China a pass. He's not going to give China a pass. I hope the Democratic Party, who's talked tough in the past about China, will step up and work with me to make sure we find out what happened in China. If they don't cooperate, they lose access to the U.S. economy. Number two, shut these wet markets. This is the third pandemic to come out of wet markets. And three, release these democracy advocates in Hong Kong. As the world's been focused on the coronavirus, they've been putting everybody in jail in Hong Kong, demonstrating for democracy. So enough with China already. Trump saw this before anybody else. I'm going to give Democrats a chance to do something about it.
I mean, the president's been very tough on China when it comes to the trade deal, very tough on China in a lot of ways. But he also says, President Xi is my friend, and I'm not going to do anything really dramatic unless he reneges on this trade deal. He's definitely holding out on that trade deal as one last connection to China and their economy. You can tell from what he says.
Yeah, well, one, this guy's not our friend. A friend would not let this happen to somebody that they considered to be a friend. A friend would not sit silently by and protect his own country while the rest of the world gets infected. Now, China is somebody we have to do business with. I want a good relationship with China, but they've got to earn it. So this is a chance for the Democratic and Republican parties to come together. We've come together back here at home by putting money on the table to help Americans get through the coronavirus. We need to come together when it comes to punishing China to make sure it doesn't happen again. If they get away with it this time, they'll do it again. So enough is enough with China.
Well, there's no doubt. We've spent decades working on energy independence, which we finally achieved, absent the current energy situation. And, I think there is a movement in this country to want independence from China. And we'll see if that's what we get. And we'll be watching your bill as you try to get it to move through the process. Thank you, Senator.
Well, I hope we have